Okay, this is Knowledge for All YouTube channel. We are continuing our Scratch tutorial series, and in this video we are going to talk about Scratch 3 editor. We are going to make a tour of it and try to explain in fastest possible way what is what and what is used and when. I've already made this video once, but I had some problems with the software which I'm using for screening and saving these videos. I've made some stupid shortcuts for start and stop making the video, so I unintentionally stopped it, and it was like probably 10 or 20 minutes of speaking in vain. So I hope this time it will all work out. So okay, let's go to Scratch. If you watched our videos, earlier videos, you should made Scratch username and login into Scratch with onto your Scratch account. If not, you can do so fast and easy. And even if you don't want to make Scratch account, you can try Scratch by clicking on create button at the top left of your Scratch window, and it will open something like this. I've already opened this window because sometimes it takes time to open window, because I guess too many Scratch users are online, so it depends. Sometimes it's just few seconds, and sometimes it can be a minute or so. Okay, so let's see what Scratch editor is and how to work in it. By Scratch editor we mean on everything you see in Scratch window here, and it consists of several different windows, smaller, which you will use more or less in your work. Some are more important, some less, but we are going to browse through all of them fast just to see what is used for what occasion. At the top left of your of this blue bar, which is called menu, is Scratch logo, Scratch name, Scratch button, call it what you want, and if you click it, it will bring you to this Scratch site again. So it's used to go to Scratch site and back to Scratch editor. I don't use this button a lot, or if at all, because I have many windows open at the same time, and I have found it easier that I have Scratch window open in another tab, in another window, and I work in Scratch editor in second. I don't find it very quick or useful to use this button and jump from Scratch editor to Scratch site at all. Okay, next button is this globe, this sphere and circle, and it represents all the languages you can use Scratch on, and try to find your language and use it in your language if you find it easier and faster to work that way. If you don't, just use whatever language you feel comfortable. English is by default, and I recommend English because Scratch site is on English. All the users mostly use English as default. Tutorials are on English, and if you plan to work in games or applications, develop games and applications, you will have to learn and use English like it or not. Most of the people are using it, and that's just the way it is. So that's it for the languages. Then we have the file button, which consists of several other buttons. If you click on a new button, it will make new window like this, and call it different name. So that's just for making new Scratch window, new Scratch project. Save now and save as a copy. Those two buttons are used to save our project in Scratch and on Scratch Online, which means that if you click on save now or save as copy, we will save everything we did here but onto the Scratch, not onto our computer, not onto our computer drive. And if you use save to your computer, then you will save it to your hard drive. So again, this save to your computer is doing just that, saving Scratch file to your computer, hard disk, and this save now and save as copy, save this at your online account as Scratch. Load from your computer, it just loads the projects you've made in Scratch and save it on your computer. We'll use these later. We have nothing to show this here anymore because it would make not much sense. Then edit button, it consists of two buttons, restore and turn on turbo mode. This turbo mode, you can think of it just as Scratch in turbo working faster, but it's more complex theme. I will have to explain it in some other video, and it's not used at least for beginners so much, so just forget it. Same as restore, you will probably won't use these at all as beginners and probably later. Then we have tutorials button, which will open new window with ton of little pictures which represents tutorials which Scratch made for you to learn easier and faster. If you have time, check those out. They are free. Lots of them are fun, and they are made from, as much as I know, from the people who made Scratch, so they are telling you how to use their program, and that should probably be good and fast. Then we have this untitled text which represents our project's name. So in this bar you type your project's name, so we can call it Scratch Tour, Scratch Editor Tour, for example, and make spaces between words. If you don't like spaces between words, just don't make them. If you want to use slash or hyphen, use it. If you want to use something else, use whatever you find fastest and easiest for you to use and work. It's your choice. Don't call your files just like this, just typing random numbers or letters, because later if you make too many projects like that, and you will never know what project is what and what is in it. It will take more time than to open every project to see what's in it, and if it's that what you need, rather than naming it, for example platform game or zombie game or whatever you want to make. Just use descriptive names, and that way you will know faster and easier what your project is about. Share button, this button allows you, if you click it, to share whatever you make here in Scratch with other Scratch users, meaning all the people who are using the Scratch site will be able to find your project and to open it and to test your game, but also to use your code and to they call it remix or Scratch. The word Scratch means remixing your project into something else. For example, if you make the this cat on in our project to move left and right and collect some apples, some other guy or girl can see the project and say, oh, I like this, but I like to, instead of using apples, and I will use bananas. So then he takes your project and remix it, scratch it into something new, where he changes that graphics you used, apples, into bananas, but he uses your code, or maybe changes your code, or maybe just use your code, and so on. And you're free to do that also from other projects. You are supposed to learn from others. That's the fastest way, easiest, at least for the most of the users and programming in general, so don't be afraid of it. But if you don't want to do it, you don't have to, or maybe your project in game is not yet over and finally polished for the presentations to the other people. So if it's so, then don't show it, don't share it, it's okay, it's your choice. See the project page and this recycle sign, that's all. Again, just to jump from this project to the page where it looks. I will show you later how it's done. It will take us few seconds or minutes to do so, so it's not very important or going to be useful for you probably for lots of time. In the top right corner we have your username and options for seeing your profile, your stuff, your projects that you've already made, and settings to your account, signing out button and so on. So it's just a casual usual button and options for checking your account settings. This button will take you to seeing your projects in one place, like some folder with your projects. Again, not very smart to click it now and show it to you, but you can test it. And that's it for the menu. This menu bar and buttons in it will not be used very much in your workflow. Probably most people don't use it very much, just for saving and loading, and that's it, and naming your project. But it's not something you do so many times in your work. You just do it once and then you go to the most important part, and that's these windows here. Okay, so let's explore these windows to next. To our right we have the scene with the cat in my example, and this scene, this white window, is called the stage, I think, by Scratch officially, but you can call it whatever you want. It's your choice, as long as you understand what it represents, and it represents the as they call it, stage, the place, the scene where everything is going to happen, every action and your game. So that's where you make your game, that's how your game will look at the end, and it's very important. One thing I don't like about it, it's very small, and that's one of the disadvantages I forgot to mention in my previous video, where I talked about disadvantages, advantages of Scratch and so on. I think that should be some option to export the game. First of all, there is no options to export the game other than internet. That's also what I was talking about earlier, but other than that, you cannot even put it on internet in bigger resolution or some specific resolution you need for some reasons. As much as I know, I will check out the forums and Scratch creators for that, but I'm almost sure it's that, and I understand why it's done that way, because this small scene, small stage is made small because all of the games you will see here in Scratch site, they all are online all the time, and there are so many users at the time, and if they make it bigger, it will take more memory, more memory consumption, so it will be harder to just to keep the site working and every game working as it's like it's now, and most of the games here are just from the beginners, for the beginners, so they're not very, they don't care about the size of the screen and so on, but it can be important for you if you want to make more serious and complex games. you have to be sure about that from the start. Okay, above the stage we have two buttons, green arrow which says go, and that starts your game. I can click it endlessly here and nothing will happen because I don't have any code made, and this red button is for stopping your game or animation, but they're doing nothing right now. To the right you have three buttons which will change the size of your scene. This one will make it even smaller. This is default. Second and the third will make it full resolution, full screen, pardon. But as you see, the cat sprite is kind of stretched and the resolution is not so good. It has edges, on pixelated edges, so it's not made for this kind of full screen width and height. So that's something you are supposed to use just for probably testing your game or playing with your friends, but you cannot. If you turn it full screen, you're not now able to code or change code, so it's just for testing purposes and not for final. You're going back to the Scratch editor by clicking on this button, full screen control, and that's it. You can click on the characters on your screen and change their position on your screen, on your stage at any time, and you can see how on the left some numbers are changing. I want to, and here below for X and Y, I want to explain those in details. That those are specific for some. Those will be explained in some other videos because those are specific for coding. Then below the stage you have information about this character we're using, about that picture. This term sprite means pictures. The picture you're using for your character or object on screen or whatever you are making game of. For example, it can be car, it can be tree, it can be human, robot, whatever. It's all called sprite. And again, those options here are going to be explained in some other videos, but you are just supposed to know that they are below the stage here. And we can, for example, if we click on this sprite here, cat, right click and then duplicate, and then we can see how clicking on first or second changes that our selection, and we can make that same selection on the stage directly. So it's same if I select them below or on stage by clicking and dragging them or something like that. And all the code here we will make will change too. Okay, so these sprites are these cat sprites, these cat pictures are made by Scratch. This is their mascot, and they also give you a ton of other pictures and sprites you can use in your games. They are here under this blue button, which when you hover it will turn into green cat, and it will say choose sprite. It has a couple of options. This magnifying glass is also choose sprite. It's actually the same, although this first button, cat button, is just meant to be used by fast clicking, and then it will open a new window with a ton of other pictures and sprites for you to use in your game. So there are kids, fruits, vegetables, bugs, dinosaurs, animals, people, and you can click on every group to pick that group only. Okay, back to Scratch. Other than that, we have options to clicking instead of hovering. You have the options to paint, which will open the window for painting sprites. You can instead of using their sprites like these cats, you can paint your own, and I will talk about that in some other videos, but just to see how it works. So that's painting. Then there is a surprise button which picks random sprite from the sprite, all the sprites in the Scratch library, and this is made for fun. It's funny button. It's just for maybe if you don't have inspiration for your game or don't know how to start your game, you just click surprise and something will pop out. Yeah, dinosaur. Let's try it again. So it can be, you can start brainstorming or making your ideas like this. Click surprise button a couple of times, and then, for example, made a game where a dinosaur is chasing this chicken, just like that. And upload a sprite. That means that you can upload sprites, pictures from your own computer, from your own custom gallery. You can use, I don't know, your photos maybe, or of your friends, relatives, parents, kids, and make a game out of it. Or if you draw, if your kids draw, you can also use all of that for as a sprite, as a picture, and make a game out of it. So a lot of useful options here. Other than that, we have a little thin vertical window to the right, which says stage. That is the window where we see the stage graphic, the graphic for our background. Stage means background, so same as with the sprites, we have one button which says choose a backdrop. I meant backdrop means background. Sorry, I said stage means background, but actually backdrop means background in Scratch terms officially. So when you say I want to choose a backdrop, again, lots of pictures will open library of Scratch pictures, but these are also although they are also pictures. As I said before, sprite is a picture, but these pictures are used exclusively for your background. So they are called backdrops, and they will show up in background as a scene for your characters to play on. So for example, if you make a basketball game, you just click on basketball backdrop and pick it and start adding characters and programming into it. If you want another backdrop, for example castle, then you just pick that one. Same as with the sprites, you can paint your own background. You can click surprise backdrop to get a surprise backdrop, or you can upload your own custom backdrop made in some other program, or scanned or photographed from your own personal gallery. So that's it for backdrops. I'm not sure why it doesn't brings the they will be showed here. I will explain those tabs just in a second. Let's get back to code. I've clicked on the first tab here, and I will explain those now because those are probably the most important ones. As I said before, menu is very rarely used. Same with those here, but from my point of view, the most important buttons and in Scratch Editor are these three here, and to be more precise, this one here, most important code button, and I will explain it in short now what it is used for. As we said earlier, Scratch is a visual drag and drop programming language, which means what? That means that visual means that we are using pictures instead of text. So as you can see, you can look at all those colorful blocks of code and then look at them just as they are some small pictures, some small photos. They are called blocks in Scratch officially, and that's what they really are. But as again, as I said, because this is visual programming language, it's all visually differentiated in different shapes and colors, so you can work much faster and easier. And that's same for kids and adults also. It doesn't matter if you're really old or really young, it's just much faster for you to work like this and make simple stuff in simple games like this, no matter how old or smart you are. So that's about visual component. And now drag and drop, what that means? That means that you can drag and drop those visual elements, blocks, to your right just by clicking on them and dragging and dropping them to the right window, this blank space, blank page here. And even if you don't know what they are doing, even if you don't care, just drag a couple of those to relax, to see how it works, and try to snap them, and you can see how it works easily, and how it visually helps you to experiment, to work fast. So for example, what I'm doing now, I'm making some code which I don't know what will do, but I can see how fast it is and how it's easy to experiment and change. So and how all visually is in different colors. So for example, if I use this pink one and I want more of those, that one says change volume by 10. If I want more of those, but I'm not sure where can I find them, I can just find the pink circle, click on it, and it will jump me to that position. Same with the blue, for example. I need blue ones, okay, I need green ones, no, I need blue, darker blue. Oh, this is, yeah, darker blue, why is it? Oh yeah, this one has no motion. Okay, I will show you that one now. For example, what is important and what I wanted to say earlier is that everything, every object, every character, and even backdrop can be coded in Scratch. That's very important to know, because it gives you unlimited possibilities to do fun stuff and experiment, but also to be very careful of what you select before you start to code. In my case, I've selected backdrop, as you can see here on your right. The backdrop is selected, but maybe I didn't want that. Maybe I wanted to code and program the cat first, so instead I have to select the cat here, and now you can see there is no code, so I haven't coded anything for cat. I was instead coding for backdrop. Okay, so let's code something for cat like this. I'm not doing anything in particular, just want to have something on my screen. And also one thing which is important, I will talk about it in later videos more. Even if you have a couple of same sprites on screen, same characters, same pictures, every single picture, every single character is treated as a separated object, and you will have to code for it again or code something different, and that makes sense in real life. So for example, if you think of these two cats, cat 1 and cat 2, as different cats in your house, first ones, and they look exactly the same for some weird reason, like some twins, which is probably not really possible for cats in real life, but just imagine it for a second. So if you one cat, for example, first one is to the left, can be for example slow and doesn't like to play and so on, and you can make that code here to represent it. And the other cat, it will be like coding something like this, blah blah blah. And the other cat, which is for example she is fast and she likes to play. She likes to get in trouble. So you are going to use some other code for that cat, and whatever code you use for that cat, it will differ, right, from behavior from the first. So when you click on the first, you can code whatever you want in that one, and when you click on the second one, you can code whatever you want in that one. So even if you don't know how to code and don't know anything about Scratch, you can see how these colors are different, very different on cat 1 and cat 2, because I have made them so, because they represent something else, and that's very good thing and important to understand, because that way Scratch helps you to work much faster and easier. And I just wanted to show you that, and also the thing I was talking about just a few seconds ago, about how every object, every character on your screen can have different code even if it looks the same. Okay, we will talk about it more in later lessons. For now, let's just see what else is important here. Yeah, you can, as I've already shown, you can scroll your blocks by clicking on these circles of different colors, or you can scroll them by this vertical bar, whatever you find it easier. And all of these blocks are used for coding. We'll talk about it later. And you drag and drop them to your right, and this window, this white page is used for coding, to put your code. You can scroll it to the left, right, also by bar, or by clicking with the left mouse button, holding and moving it to the left or the right. You can use your mouse wheel to go up and down. You can use these buttons here to zoom in. For example, if you have problem with your eyes, you don't see good, or you're maybe doing some tutorial and you want to show something to your friend or students, and to be more precise, to see, for them to see more clearly, you can zoom in. And if you have a lot of code, you can add as much code as you want. You can also zoom out, so although you cannot see anything now, any letter, you can see the structure of it. And if you, for example, imagine I have hundreds of I don't know, thousands of blocks, like here, I can zoom out, so I can scroll fast up and down to see what I am looking for. And this equal button is turning your coding area into default size. So if you zoom too much, you're going back to the default size just by clicking this. Okay, so that's it. Now let's get to the second button, which says costumes. If you watch carefully about the when I was talking about this sprite options and this particular paint, if you watch carefully, you should have seen that while clicking on this paint button, it actually opened this costumes tab. So it's same as clicking it here on paint, or clicking here or on costumes and making new one. It's the same editor. It's used for changing your pictures, your sprites. And for example, if I'm working code and I go click on paint, it will make a new sprite here, and I can go here also on costumes. So it's a tab for editing your costumes, which is another word for when one character has many pictures, many sprites. And this is done for animations. I will talk about it in later videos, but it's there for you to find it easily. And I don't know, it's not so used so much often as this one, code button, but again it all depends on what kind of games or stories you are making. And the third button is sounds, and same with the costumes. The costumes button was editor for your graphics, for your art for the game, and this sounds button is your editor for the sounds, for the voice, for the music of your game, as we had the case with the art, where you can upload, change, edit your graphics. Same goes with the sound. You can upload your sound, the sounds you save with your phone or your microphone or whatever, headphones and microphone, and then import them into Scratch and make something custom, original, play with it, change it, reverse it, make it louder, softer, faster, slower, and so on. I don't use it much, but I will explain some basic functions of it in later videos. Again, most important and most fun for me is coding for most of the time, and I will concentrate on that one most. So that's it for these buttons here. What we are left with are this backpack button at your left at your bottom, and if you click on it, you can see something opens here, like a small horizontal window. It should be empty for you. I've already added some things, and this backpack is actually like a backpack in real life, where you put your some objects in your backpack, some things, and which you want to be with you while you travel to some other place. For example, that can be, I don't know, bottle of water or books, or when you go to school or whatever. Same goes with Scratch. They call it backpack because you just drag and drop anything you want to use on another place, and or later we've drag and dropped it, and you see it's showed here now. It's first picture here. So we've put some code which we made here on sprite 1, on cat 1, and for example that was some code which will make cat move, and I am thinking, okay, I've made some code which works good, which looks good, and why should I lose time and make the same code again for this dinosaur? Let me just put that code into backpack, then select the dinosaur, and then drag and drop it from the backpack to the dinosaur, just like in real life. You take one thing, put it in the backpack, go to the second person and take out from the backpack and give it to him. Simple as that. Very, very simple, effective, and probably done in a very easy and fast way. That's it. And on the left, bottom left, you have add extension button. I think that's the last one, and which this button, what it will do, it will open new window where we can see a ton of other extensions, which means those are also all blocks, but they are grouped to categories, and they are not used so often in Scratch in terms of beginners. They are, most of them, they are very specific. For example, if you have Lego robots and Lego and you're into Lego educations and Lego robotic, you know what Lego Mindstorms are robots, and Scratch and Scratch creators made some Scratch blocks which can help you to use Scratch on Lego robots. So if you don't have them, you just go back and don't need them, maybe don't like it, it's okay, use Scratch whatever you like. But if you have Lego or Microbit or Makey and you want to combine it with Scratch, that's something these people have already done for you, so it's just for you to use and start working right away. Other than that, we have some other stuff for you to work with the translations, the text-to-speech video sensing. That means controlling your camera, pen and music, and using these blocks is just simple as clicking on them and they will show up under your circle blocks, and you can, just as you can select other circle of group of blocks, you can select that new extended one, new extensions, and drag and drop them and combine them with other Scratch block along without any problem. And for example, this music should be found. We will probably see that in some of our next videos, and it lets you play with some music instruments, control the music by playing notes, setting tempo and so on. So it must be fun, especially if you're into music, learning music and want to go programming, and vice versa. If you are into programming and want to learn something about music, that's the best way to play and easiest. I think that's all for now. Probably took me even longer than it should be, but there are a lot of interesting stuff here, and yeah, a few more things I wanted to show you. When I said about sharing your projects, and for example, if I clicked here on my stuff, window which would be open would be something like this. In my case it looks like this. In your case maybe it won't have anything or just one project if you made only one project so far, but this my stuff button takes you to your to your stuff, to do your projects. So it will show you all the projects you've already made, and it's like a big folder full of them. So why is this needed and why is this important for you? It's like a folder of your projects in some real world life, business or whatever you do, and it's made for just easier for you to use everything easier and faster. So you can, for example, work at the same time on the 5 or 10 games, and you like to jump from one to another, to the second, to the third, and so on. So this lets Scratch lets you do it by just clicking and choosing what you want to work on, and this way it's just actually organizing all the stuff for you in a very neat and simple way. Also, the thing I was talking about on this button, share, that button, as I said, lets you share your project with others. For example, I've shared only one project so far on this Scratch account, and I actually, there's nothing to share about it, but just to show you how it looks different, and it again gives you option to unshare it. So for example, I'm working on some more complex game which are not finished, I don't want to share them. Okay, I can see them here, work on them here, but there are some others which I can share, and that's also okay. All the time you have all the control, and you can share what you want or don't share, unshare it, and so on. And other than that, yeah, see project page, let's click on it. I think yeah, it will be as clicking the project here in my stuff, it will take me to, but it will probably take some time. This is already uploaded, so it will take you to your project, how it looks, how other people see it, and you can type in instructions, notes and credits on it. We'll talk about it later, but that's it for now. I think it was fun and easy for you to take a grasp on what Scratch is, Scratch Editor is, and we had a fast tour of it. So I hope in the next few videos we will start coding finally. And until then, bye. and in the meantime learn something new, something interesting, and don't give up. Bye.